Merton again. A body of broken bones. You and I and all men were made to find our identity in the one mystical person of Christ, in whom we all complete one another, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the age of the fullness of Christ. When we all reach that perfection of love, which is the contemplation of God in his glory, our inalienable personalities, while remaining eternally distinct, will nevertheless combine into one person, so that each one of us will find himself in the others, and God will be the life and reality of all, omnia in omnibus Deus. It is only the fire of God, who is consuming fire, that can refine us like gold and separate us from the slag and dross of our selfish individualities, to fuse us into his wholeness of perfect unity that will reflect his own triune life forever. As long as we refuse his love, the power to consume us entirely and unite us to one another in himself, the gold that is in us will be hidden by the rock and dirt and will keep us in opposition to one another. As long as we are not purified by the love of God, the consuming love of God, transformed into him in the union of pure sanctity, we will remain separate from one another, opposed to one another. And union among us will be precarious and a painful thing, full of labor and sorrow and without lasting cohesion. In the whole world, throughout the world of history, even among religious men and among saints, Christ suffers dismemberment. His physical body was crucified by Pilate and the Pharisees. His mystical body is drawn and quartered from age to age by devils in the agony of that disunion which is bred and vegetates in our souls, prone to selfishness and sin. All over the face of the earth, the avarice and lust of men breed unceasing divisions among them, and the wounds that tear men from union with one another widen and open out into huge wars, murder, massacres, revolution, hatred, the slaughter and torture of bodies and souls of men, the destruction of cities by fire, the starvation of millions, the annihilation of populations, and finally the cosmic inhumanity of atomic war. Christ is massacred and his members torn limb to limb. God is murdered in men. The history of the world with the material destruction of cities and nations and people expresses the division that tyrannizes the souls of men, even of the saints, even the innocent, even those in whom Christ lives by charity, even those who want with their whole heart to love one another. They remain divided and separate. Although they are already one person in him, their union is hidden from them because it still only possesses the secret substance of their souls. But their minds and their judgments and their desires, their human characters and faculties, their appetites and their ideals are all imprisoned in the slag of inescapable worldliness, which love has not yet been able to refine. But God is a consuming fire. He will refine. As long as we are on the earth, the love that unites us will bring us suffering by our very contact with one another. Because this love is the resetting of a body of broken bones. Every saint cannot live with saints on this earth without some anguish, without some pain at the differences that come between them. There are two things which men can do about the pain of disunion with other men. They can love or they can hate. There are two things men can do with this disunion with other men. They can love or they can hate. Hatred recoils from the sacrifice and the sorrow that are the price of resetting the bones. It refuses the pain of reunion. It identifies the agony with the other men whose presence causes agony in us by reminding us of our disunion. Hatred tries to cure disunion by annihilating those who are not united with us, those that are different. It seeks peace by the elimination of everybody else but ourselves, which reminds me of how Israel is talking about peace, but their idea of peace is when all the Palestinians in Gaza are annihilated, and then there will be peace, but a false one. But love, on the other hand, by its acceptance of the pain of reunion, begins to heal all wounds. It is principally in the suffering and sacrifice that are demanded for men to live together in peace and harmony, that love is perfected in us, that we are prepared for contemplation. For Christianity is not merely a doctrine or a system of beliefs. It is Christ living in us and uniting men to one another in his own life and unity. I in them, and thou, Father, in me, that they may be made perfect in one. And the glory with which thou hast given me, I have given them, that they may be one as we also are one. In hoc cognoscent omnis quia mihi estis discipuli si delectationem abiertitis ad invinctem, he that loveth not abideth in death. If you regard contemplation principally as a means to escape from the miseries of human life, as a withdrawal from the anguish and suffering of this struggle for reunion with other men in the charity of Christ, you do not know what contemplation is, and you will never find God in your contemplation. For it is precisely in the recovery of our union with our brothers in Christ that we discover God and know him. For then his life begins to penetrate our souls, and his love possesses our faculties, and we're able to find out who he is from the experience of his own selflessness reflected in our purified wills. There is only one true flight from the world. It is not an escape from trouble and conflict and difficulty and suffering, but the flight from disunity and separation to unity and peace in the love of other men. What is the world that Christ would not pray for, and of which he said that his disciples were in it, but not of it? The world is the unique. I'm sorry, no, the world is the unquiet city of those who live for themselves and are therefore divided against one another in a struggle that cannot end, for it will go on eternally in hell. It is the city of those who are fighting for possessions of limited things and for the monopoly of goods and pleasures that cannot be shared by all. But if you try to escape from this world merely by leaving the city and hiding yourself in solitude, you will only take the city with you into solitude, and yet you can be entirely out of the world while remaining in the midst of it. If you let God set you free from your own selfishness, and if you live for love alone, for the flight from this world is nothing else but the flight from selfishness. And the man who locks himself up in private with his own selfishness has put himself into a position where the evil within him will either possess him like a devil or drive him out of his head. That is why it is dangerous to go into solitude merely because you happen to like to be alone. Nevertheless, physical solitude, exterior silence, and real recollection are all morally necessary for anyone who wants to lead a contemplative life. But like everything else in creation, they are nothing more than means to an end. And if we do not understand the end, we will make a wrong use of the means. Therefore, we have to remember that we look for solitude in order to grow there in love for God and in love for other men. We do not go into the desert to escape people, but to learn how to find them. We do not leave them in order to have nothing more to do with them, but to find out how, the way to do them the most good. But this is always only a secondary end. The one end that includes all others is the love of God.